You're listening to Crystal and Emily on Love Your Shelf, the best librarian podcast in the extensive and highly competitive field of librarian podcasts.
Hiya.
Hello. I think we're ready to start episode 17.
What?
Yeah. And so I have had a very strange week of reading and viewing. So
Do tell. Dish
prepare
girl.
yourself. Yes. So this is Love Your Shelf. And for anybody who doesn't already know, this is Crystal and Emily, and we talk about the things that we're reading and watching and listening to and, I don't know, looking at, whatever, all of the things that you can consume. We're
Looking at.
Sometimes that's all you're doing.
Yep. I think that's valid.
So I'm going to go back to a book that I mentioned previously that I had just started called The Pull of the Stars by Emma Donoghue.
Uh-huh.
And I want to kind of give a little follow-up on it because it was good. It was a very odd type of book, and it's not something that not really odd, but it's odd for me because it's historical fiction, and there's a lot of interesting detail, and it's about some women who work in a hospital in Ireland
yes.
in 1918. And so they're dealing with all of the things that are going on politically, World War I, the influenza pandemic, and all kinds of stuff. And of course, they're women and they work in a maternity ward. And so it was a lot of medical things from that period.
Which is kind of my nightmare. Like, I'm happy to hear you tell me about this, but I feel like I would get queasy reading this book.
Yes. I'm just on the edge of queasy. I'm not too bothered by that kind of thing, but
yeah, you were able to get through it.
I was able to get through it, and it was really interesting, and it was obviously, we can compare what was going on then to now, and there was a lot about all of the, the public response to the pandemic and how different people reacted to it, and there was a lot of that. The only thing that there wasn't is a whole ton of character development. So, when you foreground the medical history stuff, the characters get lost a little bit. But it's
sure.
I don't know. I would recommend it for people who are interested in that kind of thing. And the characters were good. It's just that they weren't fully drawn, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, that's a lot to cover. I'm sure it's difficult to write something like that. So I guess I can't criticize too harshly, but yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. So I also read Devolution by Max Brooks. And he wrote, he's the son of Mel Brooks and Anne Bancroft.
Oh my gosh, no way.
Yeah. And
cool.
He wrote, this is, why do I do this? I'm like, I know exactly what this is. And then I completely
until you're on the spot
blank on it. It's a zombie book.
Zombie book.
Don't you know? You're going to be like, Crystal, you didn't know that one. World War Z is what he said.
Oh, okay.
Gosh, I thought that was going to completely throw me off.
I don't think that's, I wouldn't have been able to think of that, but there are probably other people that are like yelling, World War Z!
Exactly. And so I like him. I think he's super smart. He's interesting. And that was a good book. And so I picked this one up, and I didn't even look to see what it was about. And it's straight up about Bigfoot. And so I was like, oh, man. But honestly, I read the whole thing, and it was very tense, and it was also sort of lots of commentary on our contemporary society. And basically it's about these super wealthy people that move into sort of like a valley that's surrounded by Mount Rainier and the Cascade Mountain Range, I think, in Washington.
Okay.
And so they're out there like living off the grid, but they are, super wealthy tech people. So they have
Oh,
all of this high technology, but they're otherwise stranded out there.
okay.
And so that's the setting.
Okay.
And
And
then,
stranded out there, by choice, right?
yes,
Okay.
until things happen, and then
Got it.
then
Then
they're
it's
stuck
not by
there.
choice.
Yeah, exactly. And enter Bigfoot or whatever you want to call it. But so it was actually kind of reminded me of like old Stephen King or Dean Koontz.
Cool.
Yeah, so it kind of had like I don't know, it had a sense of being kind of an old style monster
Yeah, I
horror.
like.
Yeah, yeah. So I would recommend it, but I had a moment where I was like, "Is this going to be about Bigfoot? This is about Bigfoot."
What did I do?
Yeah, exactly. So read the blurbs on the jacket, people. That's what we're saying.
Or don't. I don't
Or
know.
just, yeah, jump in.
I kind of like how this turned out for you.
Me too. I was pleasantly surprised. And then I listened to an audiobook called Cursed Objects. And it is exactly what it is, like little segments about famous objects in history. It's nonfiction
Oh my gosh.
that are supposed to be cursed.
Love it.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. And it starts out with the Hope Diamond. And so
Mm-hmm.
everybody who ever owned that diamond died in some
Mm-hmm.
catastrophe. The Tomb of King Tut was another one. Everybody who
Uh-huh.
was involved with that died in some
Yep.
unusual way.
Yep.
And so, and there were a lot more. Those are the two, like, they kind of open with, but there's a
Yeah.
lot more unusual ones.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
That's fun.
And then there's another one that I wanted to discuss further that I mentioned that I had started before, the Department of Speculation by Jenny Awful.
Oh yeah.
And it starts off, I mean, the tone is so hilarious. It's like my sense of humor almost exactly.
Oh, that's
And
great.
yeah, I love it. And then, as I mentioned in the previous episode, she writes in just these like little short paragraphs that are almost disconnected, but you pick up the story the further that you go.
Yeah.
So
I love that too.
yeah, and it's not really, I wouldn't call it stream of consciousness necessarily. It's more deliberate than that, but
Sure.
it's still like her thoughts. And anyway, I want to give that one another boost because it was really, really good.
Good.
And so now I'm going to mention an app, and you can tell me, you always have to keep me honest about remembering things, but I can't remember if I've talked about
I
it
don't know
before.
if I'm the best person to have on your side for that, but let's go.
So there's an app called Just Watch. And I may have mentioned it to you, but I don't think I've mentioned it on the podcast. But
Well, if you did mention it to me, it's not ringing a bell right
okay, good.
now.
So it's an app. Just Watch is the name of it, and it's
Mm-hmm.
basically you can put in a title or an actor or whatever and see where anything is streaming. Like, so it gives you all the streaming services or where you
You
can
did
buy
tell
it.
me about this.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so every once in a while, if I'm kind of stuck about what I'm watching or whatever, I'll pull that out and see what I've saved previously or search for an actor or something.
Yes. I just think that is, I don't know. Being someone who is staying in a lot right now and has been since March, yeah, I feel like it's kind of sad, really, but I've kind of grown dependent on having something to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Like, once my thing is over, I don't know
The
who I
next,
am anymore. Yeah, no, but I'm just kind of like, what's the next thing gonna be? So, maybe this is bad in that it's gonna feed that addiction, if you will. But yeah, I think it sounds really handy.
oh yeah, it's super useful. And then well, I did go down a rabbit hole on it though, so um,
Be
we have
prepared.
to be honest about that. So
Yep.
I was thinking about, okay, I need to get back into watching Peaky Blinders because I watched the first 2 seasons and then took kind of a break.
Uh-huh.
And what made me think about it is because I was reviewing a book that's like the Peaky Blinders cocktail cookbook kind of recipe book.
Uh-huh.
And it actually, the first of all, the cocktails looked fantastic. And but the pictures and then the like pictures from the set were just gorgeous. So
Mm-hmm.
it made me, oh, I want to go back and watch that. And so I did. I watched an episode and then I was like, no, what I really want to watch is Cillian Murphy. so,
So give me all of your Cillian Murphy.
yes. So I did. I spent a couple nights and I actually this was over the weekend, so it was like a binge day.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
I used Just Watch and I found where there were these movies that he'd been in I'd never heard of or seen. And so I watched Red Lights, which is with
I don't
Robert
know
De
that.
Niro and Sigourney Weaver.
Oh,
I know. Never heard of it. And
me neither.
it's about people who are, well, they're kind of debunking these charlatan, like spiritualist type people, like who, people who claim that they can read minds
Oh,
and are
uh-huh.
mentalists or of some kind or whatever. And so, I mean, it was a genre movie. It was not bad, but I wasn't super surprised that I had never heard of it, even though these great
Right.
actors were in it.
Right. I kind of love movies like that though.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. If they're a little bit bad, it's even better.
exactly. And then I watched one that was supposed to be good, called The Party, and it's directed by Sally Potter, who also directed Orlando and The Man Who Cried with Johnny Depp.
Mm.
And so it's got Cillian Murphy and Kristen Scott Thomas
Mm.
and a whole cast of other like amazing people. And it's in black and white. I mean, it was shot in 2017, but it's shot in black and white.
Okay.
And it's just sort of like there's sort of I don't know. I think maybe it was a play originally, so it kind
Mm-hmm.
of plays out like that because it's all in
Mm-hmm.
one house and basically in 2 rooms and um,
That's cool.
yeah. And so it was very dramatic and a little overwrought in the way that a play kind of is sometimes.
Yeah, totally.
Um, but they were all so interesting just to watch that it wasn't bad.
Cool. And what was that one called again?
The Party.
Okay, cool.
And then I really did. I'm telling you, this was a deep hole. So then I watched one called The Delinquent Season,
Mm-hmm.
also with Cillian Murphy, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously, and um, this is about it was about two couples, and it was high drama, and
Uh-huh.
it was terrible.
Oh no.
So that ended my
Yeah,
my
on a bad
rabbit
note.
hole. Yeah, but
Bad drama is the worst bad.
and then it just made me want to rewatch 28 Days Later, which is one of my favorite movies,
Oh my gosh.
and another Cillian Murphy movie called Breakfast on Pluto, which if you haven't seen it, I
No.
definitely recommend that. Anyway, so those two, the last ones, I wish he had made a bunch more out of that caliber because he's infinitely watchable, but sometimes the other people are not so much.
Totally. Yeah. No, it's a group project. You can do your best, but
Right.
that might not be the only thing people notice.
Yeah. And so then I turned on The Alienist with Dakota Fanning.
Okay, I've thought about watching that. I was just talking about how kind of squeamish I am,
Mm-hmm.
and that was something I was a little bit worried about with that show, so that's why I didn't start it.
Yeah, you might want somebody who will be your eyes to
Yeah,
be like,
yeah.
okay, can I look now? Because
Yeah, there are certain things I can't watch alone for that reason.
yeah,
And that's
You
Okay.
don't want to
Good
get
to know.
surprised.
Yes, exactly.
But it's based on a book by Caleb Carr. It's set in the Gilded Age, which is actually kind of, well, it's like late 1800s, turn of the century. And
And
so,
for some reason, like medical stuff
yeah,
during that time it creeps me out so much.
exactly. So I was watching that, and at the same time I was reading The Pull of the Stars, and it was way too much like autopsy room type. I was like, okay,
Right.
I'm gonna have to. So I stopped the Alienist for a while, but I'll
Okay.
go back to it. It's good, but it's a little rough.
Okay. That's good to know. I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever watch it. Let's be honest. I'll wait for you to tell me about
Yeah, I like. I
it.
have more, but I feel like I'm dominating the conversation, so I'm gonna.
No, I mean, no, please. I usually, yeah, don't.
Okay.
I don't have a life, so do tell.
Well, clearly this is my only thing I've been doing lately because
I
I've got a
consider
lot.
that a life,
Good, because that's all I
though.
have. So I did. I also finished, and it's 10 episodes, so it's not like I did a 24-hour binge on this one. But over
Right.
the past few weeks, I finished Away on Netflix, which
Oh
is
yeah.
yeah, Hilary Swank and Josh
Hmm.
Charles, and again another really strong cast, and she plays an astronaut, and they're going to Mars. And so the whole series, or the whole, I guess, season, I don't know if it's going to continue,
Uh-huh.
is them, they're basically their trip. And then it flashes back to her husband is also an astronaut, but had medical issues. So he's grounded and she's the one going.
Hmm.
And it was, there were good elements of it, but there were a couple of actors who were not up to the same caliber, which
Uh-huh.
always really kind of takes me out of it.
Right.
And then a bit of it seemed like maybe if it had been 6 episodes, it
How many
wouldn't.
was it, 8 or 10?
It was 10,
Oh, okay. That's right. You
but
said that.
the drama is a little bit flat and a little bit forced, which
Mm,
shouldn't be when you're on such a high stakes.
right.
You
Well, because I was gonna ask ask you this. So, okay, well, so I rewatched Armageddon recently,
know.
and I had forgotten just how, okay, basically, it is one awful thing happening after another. And it was exhausting,
Yeah,
frankly. Like, I ended up kind of tuning out by the end of it. Because it's also super long. I had forgotten how long it is too.
yeah,
But anyway, I was going to ask, like, when I see space movie, space TV show, that's kind of what I envision is like, they're only happy for approximately 30 seconds at a time.
if that, yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, and then the things that like the crew, of course, there's going to be interpersonal conflict because it's like months long journey that they're
Gosh.
on.
Yeah. I cannot imagine.
No, and that makes me feel claustrophobic. And
Me too.
so there's already tension there, but then the problems that they came up with between to go
Hmm.
between the characters, they were kind of lame. And so it's like,
Really?
yeah, it's like, in fact, one of them is like, you said you want to go home, so now none of us trust you at all. And
What?
it's like, well,
You're
what?
crazy that you don't want to go home a little bit. Like, there's not a single part of you.
Right. Can a person have a breakdown occasionally?
Right.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
it
a
was,
stretch a little bit.
yeah. But there were definitely good elements. It was just it could have been shorter and tighter, but
Yeah.
let's see what else. Oh, I did watch. There's another Chef's Table. I haven't had a cooking show in a while that I enjoyed, but
Uh-huh.
there's a new Chef's Table that's focused on barbecue, and
Nice.
yeah, and these people, it's so intense and crazy what they do. So in the first
Oh my gosh.
episode, um, it's Snow's barbecue, and it's this woman who is her name's Tootsie,
Uh-huh.
and she's been a
Love
pit
it.
master for 50 years.
Oh my
And
gosh.
she gets there in the middle of the night, doesn't like measure anything, have a temperature
No.
gauge, nothing. It's all she just knows it.
She could do it with her eyes closed.
And then she has a day job of being a janitor at the local school.
What?
Yeah. So I was super into like the cooking aspect of it, and Chef's Table is very um it's like Vivaldi music, and they really
Right.
elevate the whole thing. But I just kept thinking, like, how come this restaurant owner is not paying this lady enough that she doesn't have to work as a janitor?
That's what I was about to ask is, how successful is this place?
Yeah, very.
Like I would think, yeah, I would think with a woman with this much experience and who's clearly a hard worker, I'm like getting defensive on her behalf.
I know, and she's in her late 70s, 80s, and
No, no, ma'am. No.
yeah. So that's exactly. I mean, and it seems like maybe they don't really explain for sure, but maybe she just really likes doing that. She
If
wants to be useful,
yeah,
but that was
if
the whole
that's the
thing. I think
case, yeah. Oh my goodness.
I was just sad. But anyway, but that is a good show. There's several episodes. They're all about barbecue all over the world, different ways that people approach it. It's really good.
Oh, yum. Love barbecue.
Yeah. So that's all for shows, I think. What have you been up to?
I have a couple new shows that I've discovered. I took a break from The Sopranos. I'll be so happy to come back to it. I just can't watch everything in the world.
Yeah.
I I heard about this show on another podcast that I listened to, and it is super weird but super fascinating. It's on HBO. It was originally HBO Europe. But it's called The Beforeigners, and it's super weird. Get ready. It takes place in Oslo in Norway, and so get ready to read subtitles. But I don't know. One night, this sort of I don't know, worldwide phenomenon begins, and these lights sort of start showing up in the water. And when the lights flash, these people from the past show up, and all different time periods. There are like people from prehistoric times and the 1800s. And then it kind of cuts to a couple of years later where, this is still happening. They've, set up this like task force that welcomes these people and
So
helps.
they're still arriving all this time, or
Yeah,
oh,
yeah. Like it's just sort of like a normal thing now. And so they'll welcome these people and, they have like classes that they'll put them through to kind of like help teach them about the modern world. And then they kind of help them go out into the world. And it's interesting, like, I don't know, the degree that some of them sort of choose to appropriate. Like some of them, some of the prehistoric people are still running around naked, hunting animals, but others are living in an apartment and trying to like wear clothes and sweep their apartment
is it a
like normal
comedy?
people. No, but I mean, there are funny things about it for sure, but it's ultimately not like it's kind of a murder mystery. The
Wow.
thing that had so the whole, that's just kind of the beginning of it. Eventually they start finding beforeigner women that have been killed. And so somebody's killing these beforeigner women because there's a lot of, some people are not as welcoming of these people.
Mm-hmm.
Others are. Seems familiar. Uh, but so, anyway, so this woman who is, I don't know, this Norse woman, she was a Viking back in the day, becomes the first beforeigner to become a police officer. So she's, yeah, kind of going through the world as a police officer, and she still has these sort of Viking, I don't know, tendencies that are really funny. Anyway, it was so fascinating. I watched it all last Sunday. It was 6 episodes, and I started early, watched it all day long. No regrets. It was a really fun show. um, After that, I started watching this show. It came out a couple years ago. I don't really know what made me press play, but I saw it and I did it. It's called The Boys on Amazon Prime. It has 2 seasons out now. But it's about sort of imagining the world if superheroes were like movie stars. And you have your A-listers and your D-listers, and there's a group called the Seven, and they're sort of like the 7 chosen ones. They're the most famous ones. And they have the Captain America type, and his name is Homelander and has an American flag for a cape. But it touches on just sort of, the PR side, the collateral damage, how spoiled and awful these people are, behind the scenes. The story sort of moves forward when this young man his girlfriend is killed by a superhero. And so he's angry about that, and I don't know, gets approached by a group of people who also don't like superheroes and want to expose them. And it's really messed up. It's pretty gory. Again, I have to watch it with my fiance so that I know when I can look, or when to look away. But I do recommend it. It's a lot of fun ultimately to watch. So
I have to say, this has reminded me a lot of Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog. Have you ever
what?
seen that?
No.
Oh man.
I love a good title.
Okay,
Tell me everything.
I'm gonna tell you all the things because you need to watch this.
Okay.
This was something that came out on the web.
Okay.
In I think 2008, and Neil Patrick Harris plays Dr. Horrible, and it's a musical. And so he's keeping a video blog, and then it shows, like what's going on intermittently, between his blogs. And so he's
just a musical blog on its own is really genius.
It is so good. You are gonna thank me.
I'm so excited.
Come Monday, you're gonna be like, I can't believe I never saw this. You're my favorite.
Oh my gosh, yay. It is Friday night. I need something good to watch.
Yes. And so Nathan Fillion plays Captain Hammer, who is like the superhero, but kind of a jerk. And then Penny is they're both vying for her affection. And Neil Patrick Harris wants to be a supervillain. And so, and then there's the actual leader of all the supervillains is Bad Horse.
Bad Horse?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
And there's another guy who they're all kind of like lame, superheroes. So this is like the comedy version of the one you're talking about.
I love it. Because honestly, this show, The Boys, I've had to take a break a few times because there are some moments that I'm like, this is so awful. I need to stop. So maybe when that happens, I'll switch to this.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
There's a Simon Helberg, who is in that Big Bang Theory.
Which one?
He is Howard.
Who is
the little?
Yes. With the kind of shag hair.
Yeah.
Yes.
He plays a guy whose superpower is that he's just moist.
Oh,
he's just clammy and slimy.
That's the worst.
Exactly. So nobody likes him. Everybody's trying to get away from him all the time. But,
oh my gosh, that's super funny.
Anyway, it's just 3 very short episodes. It's not even like a feature length, but
right. Oh, that's great.
There's some great songs. Anyway, I'm just so glad that I remembered that while you were talking about this other one.
Amazing.
Yeah, you'll love it.
I love it. I will definitely watch it. But anyway, those are, I guess, the new things I have to bring to the table. I have been listening to Brene Brown's podcast, Unlocking Us. If you are a emotional, feely person and you like that kind of stuff, I'm just kidding. It's not just like talking about feelings. She has some really cool guests on, and she is super down to earth. Like I had read one of her books, and I don't know, just reading her and then listening to her, I just feel like it's the same voice. Like that's what I was hearing all along.
Yeah.
But she is lovely and wonderful and makes me feel less crazy, because she usually touches on something that I'm fretting over, and it's easy to feel like I'm the only one. And yeah, so if you want to feel less crazy, I recommend Unlocking Us with Brene Brown.
I've read several of her books. She is really good. And you're right. She writes in a really, conversational, down to earth, inviting way. And she seems to be like that as a person. And yeah.
And she lives in Houston. I didn't realize that she's, currently in Texas. So that's cool.
Well, I will mention just a couple of other things that I'm looking forward to, because, well, for one thing, I'm going to call this a guilty pleasure, because I don't even really like them, but I just can't stop it. And
oh gosh, what are you about to say? I'm so excited.
It's a new show on Netflix called Get Organized, and it's with The Home Edit, and they're like, it's these two women who are professional organizers, but they created their whole business by just being really good at social media on Instagram.
Wow.
And yeah. And so they organize closet. I watched Reese Witherspoon's closet, and
I want to watch this.
Yeah. I'm sitting there in my, disaster of a
I was
house.
just about to say my junk of a house, junky living room.
Where I love to be organized. I hate clutter, but then I'm just sitting there looking at the clutter and watching this show, and
I know.
I'm just owning it at this point.
Yeah. Well, if you feel bad after watching that show, like if you feel bad about yourself, listen to Brene Brown's podcast.
And then maybe I'll clean up the house, but
right.
I don't know.
Be empowered.
It's going to take a lot for that. Because clearly I'm very busy watching.
You can't make me. Yeah. Exactly. Priorities. Hello.
So I did. I started, like, I was kind of up late last night, and I thought, okay, I'm going to start this new movie because I just saw that it had come out, which is I'm Thinking of Ending Things. It's on Netflix, and it's based on a book by Ian Reid, but Charlie Kaufman, who I've talked about before, wrote the screenplay and directed it, and I was super jazzed. I was like, okay, I'm going to stay up late, doesn't matter. But then I realized that I had read part of that book, and that it's like a horror thriller, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to have to save this for the daylight hours.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to stay up until 2 a.m. watching this and then not be able
to. Or, tonight, because then you can stay up all night if you want.
Yeah, I can sleep in. And so I turned that off, to save it for later. And then I thought, okay, well, I'm still, I'll watch something. And I turned on Jojo Rabbit. And
had you seen it?
No.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. And so then that was the same kind of thing, as I was like, oh, this is too much fun. I don't want to watch this while I'm falling asleep.
Right. I do feel like there's a little bit of adrenaline involved in watching that one, like in a good way. Yeah. It's funny, but gets you pumped up. Yeah. Kind of makes you want to fight the bad guys. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've turned both of them off, and they're saved for this weekend. So I'll talk about them next week.
Well, how fun.
Yeah. Well, I think that wraps up.
Yeah.
Right. Episode 17.
Yeah.
And there is a feature that we haven't mentioned before. We record our podcast on Anchor. So if you want to, you can go to anchor.fm and you can leave us a voice message. And,
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and we can play your question or your comments or whatever, include them on an upcoming podcast. So we encourage you to reach out to us. We want to hear from you. And
saying nice things, of course.
I don't know. We can be honest.
Okay,
It
good.
depends. It depends.
I'll prepare to be strong.
I'll warn you in advance. I won't.
I've had my Brene Brown power with me.
Right. I won't spring it on you. I promise. But yeah, so definitely do that, and we will talk to you all next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Afraid you missed one of our scintillating selections? Check out wakelet.com and you'll find a collection of all of the titles that we have mentioned on our podcast.